In the heart of Houston, a city of diversity and resilience, a story unfolds, a story of unsung heroes, visionaries, and trailblazers, a story of Latinos rising in the digital age. From doctors saving lives in our hospitals to the artists painting the future and the entrepreneurs building legacies, these voices are leading the way, breaking boundaries and redefining what it means to be Latino in America. Our culture, our stories, our people, each one with a journey that touches the heart and inspires the soul. From the pages of history to the screens of today, Viva Magazine Live continues its legacy of uplifting the Latino community and telling the stories that need to be heard. Viva Magazine Live isn't just a show, it's a movement, a celebration of Latino excellence, and a call to action for the next generation to fulfill their hopes and dreams and become an active part of the Latino voice. Join us as we tell the stories that inspire, unite, and elevate. Together we can ensure these voices are heard loud and clear. We invite you to be part of something bigger. Support Viva Magazine Live and make history with us. Support the vision and invest in our community. Hola, Houston. Welcome to Viva Magazine Live. I'm your host, Blanca Blanco, and this is the place where we celebrate the movers, the shakers, and the trailblazers of our Latino community. Now, I know what you're thinking. Blanca, air quality? Is this a Latino profile show or this is a science class? Well, listen to me closely because it is very important. And trust me, we'll make it a little more entertaining than your high school chemistry class. I promise. We're talking about the air we breathe here in Houston, and that's something that none of us can take lightly, especially when you got kids coughing like they're auditioning for a remake of the Contagion movie. No joke. Our guest today has been on the front lines making sure we get the clean air we all deserve. So stick around. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back to Viva Magazine Live. Today, we have a powerhouse in the world of environmental justice, Leticia Gutierrez. She is the Director of Government Relations and Community Outreach at the Air Alliance of Houston, and she's made it her mission to improve the air we breathe from right here in our city, from her childhood in Mexico to raising her own kids in Houston East End. She knows firsthand the impact a poor quality can have, and believe me, this isn't just about science. It's personal. Let's welcome Leticia. How are you, my friend?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me, Blanca.
Absolutely. You need to tell us, you've seen firsthand how air quality can affect health, especially in communities like the East End. What was it like raising your children there, and how did your son's asthma diagnosis change your perspective?
Thank you so much for that question, because I always like to lead in with my full disclosure. My background is finance and economics. That's what I went to school for. And living in the East End, I grew up myself in the East End. And after I had a couple of children, my son's pediatrician pointed to this constant cough that he was having that we could not diagnose as to the reason where we were living, the reasons why it was exasperating his medical condition. And he pointed to an article about how children that lived 2 miles or less from the port were 5 times more likely to have upper respiratory issues, and also 50 times more likely to get certain types of childhood leukemias.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided to turn my career around and devote my time, my energy, and talents to making our community, our Hispanic community, more than anything, aware of what was happening.
That's remarkable, Leticia. As a mother, I'm sure that you were very concerned. How old was your baby at the time?
Lucas, who is actually now 20, going on 21, he was 8 years old at the time. And so it took us a long time to find that diagnosis that was needed.
Yeah.
But if it wouldn't have been for that pediatrician who looked at my zip code and said, it has to do with where you live, I would have never known.
No.
And again, I mean, there's numerous studies being done, not just on my son, but in our community about, unfortunately, how a lot of what we're being exposed to is also contributing to less life expectancy.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of research that's coming out as we speak about our zip code actually having almost 18 years less of life expectancy in comparison to our compadres on the west side.
Right.
You know, and so again, you know, we understand that we need industry, we understand where we live, but we also need to make sure that what we're trying to do is hold them accountable.
Right.
Because there's better ways to do things. We understand that the port is a huge economic engine. And I mean, I have family and friends that I graduated with that work at the port, that put food on the table for their family.
Right.
And so we're not trying to take away jobs. That's not what we're trying to do. We genuinely are actually trying to make sure that workers are being represented and that they're being protected as well.
Right. Yes, and you mentioned the Port of Houston. I went to a luncheon just the day before yesterday for the East End Chamber. They hosted it, and Rick Ocampo is the chairman of the board.
Yes.
And what I saw is that they are really trying to be good community partners for our area. So I'm sure you've had conversations with Mr.
Mr. Campo, yes. We've so he is a chairman of the board for Port Commissioners, and I'm glad that you bring that up, because one of the things that that Air Alliance Houston, that is a part of the Healthy Ports Community Coalition, one of our biggest goals is trying to get someone from the community on that port commissioner seat.
Yes.
And so to represent us, right, as these business dealings are happening, we understand the power of money. We understand that people are trying to invest in the area, but at the same time, making sure that our health is at the top of the list, right?
Of course.
Because we can't put a price on our health,
No.
you know? I mean, when even not just ourselves, but when our children are sick, it's, you will give anything to make sure that they're not.
As you have demonstrated, of course, changing careers because you wanted to get to the root of what was going on with your son, and we can understand that. Houston is known for being a hub of industry, especially with the Port of Houston and all of those chemical plants going down 225. They're one after the other over there. So how do those contribute to our air quality problems, and what is Air Alliance doing to combat that? And how do you stop them, or what causes all that spewing?
What we know is that other industrial facilities across the country and other states have made it possible not to pollute in the ways that, unfortunately, this state and our state regulators allow industrial facilities here to pollute.
Yeah.
I always give the example of Valero. They're allowed to spew hydrogen cyanide here in Texas. But in California, the same Valero company has figured out how not to do it. Why they do it here, again, it's one of those things where, you know, if you're allowed to speed, you're probably going to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But there's rules and regulations for a reason, to make sure that we are kept safe. And so, unfortunately, our state regulators here in Texas they're underfunded, and they have a very hard time making sure that industrial facilities are doing right by us. So that's where we come in. And so we do have an air monitoring network system that we mainly test for particulate matter 2.5, which is basically soot. It's the byproduct of whenever something is burning. But there are other air monitors in the area that do test for benzene. Unfortunately, we don't have anything to test for hydrogen cyanide. We just
That's the most toxic chemical, isn't it?
Correct. Yes, it is a very toxic chemical. And again, you know, trying to figure out ways to implement laws to force them to do the right thing, because right now, what Valero and other industrial facilities will tell you is that, well, we're abiding by the state's regulations, which technically they are. Every now and then they will get caught spewing more than the allowed, because they know they can do it. Again, if you know you can get away with something, you're probably going to do it if you think nobody is watching and you think it's not hurting anyone. But at the end of the day, it is hurting us. There is science behind the fact. I mean, people can Google hydrogen cyanide, they can Google particulate matter 2.5, and they can again start looking at, you know, how it is that it's impacting our Hispanic community the most, you know, with a lot of these reports that are coming out with less life expectancies and a lot of the social detriments to our health, you know, because you couple that with food deserts, you couple that with not nutritional foods to be able to choose from in our area,
Right.
you know, access to green spaces. So all of that plays a role on top of, you know, having to deal with toxic chemicals that we have to breathe in. And so a lot of what we do as well is we invite community to come to public session, to come to city council and give their comments. We invite community to come to our state legislator in Austin. You know, our next ledge session is coming up March of 2025. And so we encourage community to come and speak up and say, it's not just about what you're smelling, it's about how you're feeling.
Right.
You know, we don't expect you to come and bring your medical chart with you, but what is it that you and your family are experiencing? Because I know for us Hispanos, sometimes we feel a little guarded.
Yes.
And we feel like it's a little intrusive to ask us about our health. But we need to start learning how to talk about these things because they're important, not just for us, but for the whole state and hopefully our country, to change some of the things that are happening, because other countries are figuring it out. We need to figure it out as well.
Right. We need to figure it out right here in Texas, because if California can figure it out, we certainly can too.
Right.
So what is it going to take for us to get that changed, or for Air Alliance to go up before the legislature and, you know, maybe write a bill or help them write a bill and advocate, because you do great in advocacy. I mean, you are all over the community, I know, and people are concerned about the air quality out in our area.
They are. And I want to say when I first started this, you know, 12 years ago, you know, I ran for city council myself. And I learned a lot. I learned how, you know, how to advocate, how to be able to also support those grassroots candidates that are actually interested in making sure that, you know, we're doing the things that we're supposed to be doing. I do have to disclose that we are a nonprofit and we do not support or endorse candidates, but I, on my own time, you know, I take my own PTO and I do support candidates that are out there fighting for us.
Yes.
And after they get elected, yes, we do go up to the legislator and you know, bring the science, bring the facts.
Right.
You know, I'm not a scientist, but we actually have an environmental epidemiologist in our office now, Dr. Enyang Uwak, who is brilliant and amazing. And she's actually the one that arms me with a lot of the talking points that we need and the community needs whenever we go up to the legislator to speak on these issues.
Right.
And we're literally at the mercy of our lawmakers, asking them to do right by us.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I'm all for making money. We understand that this is a huge economic engine, but you cannot continue to do business the way that it is if you have a sick workforce.
Right.
You know, we do care about making sure that our students that are coming from our areas that are trained on the new green jobs that are coming down the pike, that they don't you know, just talk about the jobs, but that we're actually doing the things to put those resources in their hands. But again, if they're sick and their mom is sick or their, you know, hermanito is sick, you know, how can you expect us to move forward and be robust and have a real, you know, healthy economic engine when these pollutants are coming into not just our air, unfortunately our water and our soil as well.
Yeah.
So again, you know, if anything, like I try to explain to our port commissioners and those that want to invest in the area, you know, who's going to want to come and buy here if they start listening to the reports and they start hearing the news, how we have cancer clusters, right? We have community that is consistently getting sick. Nobody's going to want to invest in here. You know, we have to make it better, and there are ways to make it better. There's not just the state of California. There's, you know, other states like the state of Washington that have done great strides in cleaning up their port. And yes, again, the port is a huge economic engine. We're not trying to stop.
Right.
We just want to make it better.
That's right. And y'all are doing a great job out there, because if it wasn't for Air Alliance of Houston, where would we be?
Well, you know, again, I mean, it's been a very moving the needle very slowly.
It takes time.
It does.
It's like turning a big ship. It just takes time, and eventually it does turn around.
Yes.
Let me ask you something. What did you do for your son? How did you get that resolved, or is he still have those symptoms?
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, a lot of my friends were like, well, why don't you just move?
Yeah, right.
But I can't move. You know, my parents live here.
Yes.
I grew up here. My roots are here. 80% of my family that lives in Houston, we all live within a 2 or 3 mile radius of each other.
Right.
You know, we love our carnicerias.
Yeah, of course.
You know, we go to, we go to all the places that I love. And I'm
Yeah.
like, if I move, I can't leave my family behind.
Right.
Which is why I said I want to make it better. And so for my son, actually, he's currently serving in the United States Army.
Well,
and
congratulations.
Thank you. It is one of those things where I'm very proud, and then also, just get sometimes emotional thinking of him. But he is in Germany, and he says, Mom, you're not going to believe, he actually tells me anytime that we get a chance to talk, he says, Germany has it right. He's like, they compost, they recycle, you actually get ticketed if you don't do it right. And he says,
maybe we should try that in Houston.
I know. I mean, we're just trying to make sure that, again, that we leave behind a cleaner, better environment for generations to come. And so he says, I breathe good here. He's like, I haven't had to take my medication. Everything's great. And it makes me sad because he's actually thinking about moving.
I was going to say, are you going to move to Germany?
I know. I mean, he's like, he's like, it's awesome here. At the same time, it just makes me sad. And I keep thinking, hopefully by the time he comes back in the next 4 years, maybe things can change,
There's always hope. And
there is.
I mean, and it is moving. You are moving the needle. So you're making a difference.
Thank you.
So,
well, and I will say really quickly that, with not just to our ledge, to our state capitol, but, going to D.C. And also advocating and bringing our leaders, our congressional leaders to see.
Right.
The Biden administration did put out $3 billion for a Clean Ports grant fund that all of the ports across the state can use to be able to retrofit dirty diesel, to be able to move forward, and to also acknowledge that a lot of the things that our ports are doing are contributing to climate change.
Yes.
Right. We're starting to see a lot of these catastrophic weather patterns becoming the norm. And again, I know it's a long stretch sometimes for people to understand, and it sounds like a big issue when you talk about climate change.
Right.
But I mean, if we just talk about here at home, again, how we're trying to tackle those chemicals, those toxins, to make sure that they don't make us sick and that they don't make our, environment sick.
Exactly. So, Leticia, how do they get in touch with you, or who do they need to call if they see something and they want to say something about that?
Well, my email is leticia@airalliancehouston.org. And usually when they email me and I reply, which I always do, you'll have my personal phone number. And we also have on our website at airalliancehouston.org, we have many ways for, to be able to report smells, to be able to report any incidents that community sees. And we use that as ammunition whenever we go up to the state legislator to say, look, this is how many emails I've gotten in the last month.
Right.
From not just, like mothers who are worried about their infant children, but we have pregnant mothers. We have, families who have elders that have upper respiratory issues that they're starting to see increasingly getting worse.
Yes.
And so again, these are all huge issues that we're trying to tackle. And at the end of the day, like I said, we can't put a monetary value on our health.
Yes.
So we just,
and our family. Leticia, you mentioned Valero. What are the communities surrounding Valero?
So here is where Valero is.
Yes, and it's literally right across the street from this park, which, my God, it's very, very close.
It's extremely close, and actually today is a good day. You will see some smokestacks. Doesn't smell too bad. There's not flaring going on, thank God, because usually when they're flaring, there's a huge flame.
Right.
You smell it, you feel it on your bones.
Yeah.
And again, usually there's children out here playing.
Yeah.
But well, I say usually. However, I think that as more and more information is starting to get out, families are starting to not want to come and partake in the park.
Right. And I just saw people walking or jogging around the park. This is also a jogging park for folks to come out and
That's
do
correct.
Some exercise.
My dad actually used to come to this park up until recently, maybe about 10 years ago when I started doing this work. And I mentioned to him that it's not a good idea. So now he frequents either Mason Park, a little further away, because he was
which is in my area.
Right.
Yeah, but it's still pretty close.
It is close, and that's what we try to explain, is that depending on the wind pattern and depending on what's going on and what's being omitted, we are all sharing what community here. Of course, they're getting the worst of it, right? And there's a lot of renters here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of community that is seeking those lower, home prices as things are continuing to go through the roof here. But again, it shouldn't be at the cost of their health, and more importantly, my children's health. Like I have children, right?
Yes.
And I started doing this work, as you know, because of my son.
Right.
At the same time, I see mothers here, and whenever we have hearings here at the Hartman Community Center around TCQ, allowing them to do what they're doing, it really breaks my heart when we hear mothers come up and say, my child has asthma. I have adult onset asthma. That's an issue for our community.
Yes, it is.
And that is a deficit in our community when you have children that can't go to school, when you have mothers that are having to care for their babies. This is a lose-lose situation for us.
Yeah.
And all we're asking is, again, that Valero does right by us, and that, our state regulators also, keep our health at the forefront of all the decision making that happens, because our community matters.
That's right.
And Hispanos, more than anything, we are the ones that we are the majority minority, right? Mm-hmm. And so we are the ones that are being impacted the most.
Right. And Manchester is a predominantly Hispanic area, Latino area. So we Spanish speaking. Want to hope that a lot of the Manchester community leaders come out and do what's needed.
Right by us.
Yeah, and do what's needed out here. As a matter of fact, there goes a walker walking, making his exercise.
There's a lot of community here that again use the park. This is the closest green space that they have available, and right across the street is
Valero, the big plant with smokestacks.
And I want to show you something also. There's a mural that is painted here by the playground that will literally, and this is something that students drew, and it will give you a good idea of how children see their own community. But I just want to point to this mural that's here so that you can get an understanding of what children have drawn here. So you have the park, right?
Yes.
But then you also have...
Look at the smokestacks.
The smokestacks. And you have they're trying to blend it into their
And the children, the kids drew this.
Yes. Yeah. This was the children's drawing of how they see their community. And so they have the trucks.
Yes.
They have the cars represented. Yeah. They have the houses. And they have this, the flaring and the smokestacks.
And they depicted it perfectly, because this is their community. Look at that. It's like exactly what they see every single day.
Exactly. And you have, you also have livestock. You have chickens that sometimes run around. Yeah. But again, as they're continuing to breathe the smoke, it worries us.
Yeah. Of course.
And you do have air monitoring that is being done here. However, the air monitor...
That is very strong smoke. If the camera can turn over there, look at that smoke out there. It's very strong.
Yeah.
So we're giving you a picture of that.
Yep. And the tanks here, the tanks literally next door to this gentleman's house across the street.
Yes.
If God forbid, anything would to go just wrong, this could be an explosion.
Yeah.
This could be a fire here. But with the amount of explosions that we've had here recently in our region with industrial facilities, it worries me. Yeah. Again, you and I both live within earshot.
Exactly.
And or within smell shot, as I coined. But this is very...
It's a beautiful park.
Oh,
it's a gorgeous park.
And I will say that Valero has contributed to some of this green space, and making sure that children do have up-to-date equipment, and making sure that they do
maintain it. They maintain it as well.
However, again, it just doesn't.
There's more that's needed.
Right. There's more that's needed, and we just ask that you know, they do right by community. Just as they go out into community and they dole out scholarships and, you know, community investment projects. We just want to make sure that, again, because our health doesn't have a price on it, right? Your health, my health, our children's health. There's no price tag.
No.
Like, they're literally, you could not pay me enough to have to wake up in the morning and worry about, you know, is my child going to get sick today?
Right.
Is he going to have an asthma attack today?
Yes.
You know, this it's not something that anyone would ever want to live with.
Right. So there you have it, right here in Manchester, a community right outside of Houston city limits. Actually, we're part of Houston, or Manchester is a part of Houston. And so we just wanted for folks to see the proximity of these plants near a community that wants to have good health and live on for the rest of their lives. So there you have it.
So, Leticia, let me ask you a question. What do these violations really mean to these huge corporations?
At the end of the day, you know, we consider them baby fines in comparison to the record profits that they make.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, you know, there isn't a whole lot of oversight, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah.
It usually takes community complaining and putting in the phone calls, you know, to TCEQ for them to come out and investigate.
Right.
And so they hand out this small fine. They expect them to make it better or to, you know.
But nobody monitors them?
So, you know, our governor has taken great pride in saying that we allow our industrial facilities to self-regulate. You know, he thinks that's a good thing, that, you know, they are being good neighbors and they're going to do the right thing. So why should government get in the way?
Right.
And we do not agree with that. A whole catastrophic issue happening. So we have to remind our lawmakers what's at stake at the end of the day. And so, you know, we have to get this right.
Yes, because our lives are at stake.
Correct.
Leticia, thank you so much for joining us today. I know air quality isn't always the most glamorous topic, but it's something that affects all of us. It's important that we talk about it, and we need to talk about it often, because I think people, sometimes we tend to forget and get into our lives and we forget about, because the air, it's just there, right? But we all breathe it.
That's right.
And when we, you know, breathe something different, or we're out there in the area, we need to call you or call Air Alliance of Houston and make sure that we report it.
Yes.
Especially here in Houston.
Yes.
So again, the air quality was a personal issue because of your son, and you took it upon yourself that you were going to make this right. Yes. So that is a big commitment. You've taken on a big job, but I think with you and all your allies and everyone that surrounds you, you will make a big impact. So thank you very much.
Well, again, thank you, and to community leaders like yourself who have also taken up this fight with me, because without you, without people talking about it and elevating it, then it goes nowhere.
Yes.
So it's a huge thank you to you. It's a huge thank you to those who have signed on to this. I can't do it without our community leaders at all. Yeah. So thank you as well.
I got it. Thank you very much, Leticia. So there you have it. Viva Magazine Live, a powerhouse in the environmental justice, Leticia Gutierrez. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Blanca.
Hasta luego, Houston. Bye.
Adios.